Welcome to the best of the RSN Breakfast Club. Here's a little bit of what we did. Take a listen.
Good morning, Whitey.
Yeah, good morning. I've just seen Brandon Grace from an adjacent green hit the ball from the green over the trees to about 10 feet. It was an extraordinary golf shot.
Right.
That just sort of, yeah.
Was he in the mix?
He absolutely is in the mix. There's not too many of the leaders that are doing particularly well. Morikawa and Cantlay lead at 10 under. Scotty Scheffler at... Morikawa and Cantlay at 11 under. Scheffler at 10 under. Grace at 9 under. Now, we're all keen to see how Lucas Herbert goes. He hasn't really been able to make up any ground, but if he was to get a top 10, that would be a terrific performance from him.
Adam Ramanauskas is a former Bombers champion, these days manager to the Stars. Good morning to you, Ramanauskas.
G'day, Peter Harford. How you going? We're just making up names now, are we?
I couldn't remember his bloody name, so I went with Tommy, and that'll do.
I like it.
Jeff Ramanauskas with us, former Bombers champion.
Although when you don't know, just sound like you know. Just go with it really confidently, and people will believe you.
A joke for you off the SMS, Ram. Knock, knock.
No.
No, play the
I'm
game,
not playing.
please. This is off the SMS. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Nobody.
13 minutes to go. That door was off its hinges. I'd thrown the front door out onto the street.
Who was that from?
The Tigers flex their muscle after that.
We've got some amazing numbers we'll talk about later on after 7 with Jimmy on that. Send through your name, please.
Very good. It was very good.
That was the first SMS we received this morning.
Well played.
Midway through Johnny Bowden's news, it came through. That was very funny. The Bombers are knocking on the door, says Rama, but knock, knock. No one's there.
Yeah, geez, that was my house. My kids were jumping around with 13 minutes to go. They were off.
Were they?
Yeah, they ran out in the backyard and they were jumping around, and neighbours were probably wondering what was going on. Then, bang! The Tigers just flex, a big flex.
It was a massive flex.
Yeah,
a massive,
scary flex, I think.
Yeah, well, that's right. We talked about on Friday they're getting some soldiers back, and then they lost. They were pressed late.
Yeah.
Well, did they? Well, they just need some fresh legs in the forward half.
Well,
not sure.
Oh, no, he was playing well.
Yeah, but you don't want to ruin him.
Yeah.
You don't want to break him because he's pretty important. We keep hearing. And
who was their sub?
Rioli.
Oh, yeah, he came on and kicked the goal, didn't he, late?
The interesting thing about Richmond is that you look at them and you think, gee, they look terrifyingly good on Saturday night when they had to be, much like happened against Adelaide the week before. But they're in 8th position.
It's okay, they're coming. They've had the hardest draw.
No, I understand that. They're in 8th position, but they're only a game and percentage off 3rd. Now, they've played a game more than Geelong, I understand that, and Port Adelaide, but it is quite remarkable.
2 games clear of 9th, though, which is
That's the thing.
That's the one. That's the big one.
It wasn't a great weekend for keeping the season alive.
No, spot on.
At all.
Spot on. A very challenging back half of the year it's going to be for 10 teams.
Potentially.
According to what we've seen.
Well,
so
Fremantle,
far.
It's almost impossible for them now to make the finals.
That was carnage
not
for Fremantle.
Not that they necessarily were going to, but they just lost. I shouldn't laugh, but they lost the 3 of the most important players in about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yep.
For long-term injury.
They look like they have all the ingredients to be a very good team, Fremantle, but their problem is, are they ever going to get a run at it with personnel?
But it's ahead for them, though, isn't it?
Well,
it's not this year.
Yeah, but you don't want to waste Fyfe. You don't want to wait. Mundy's still playing at the top of his game. You've got to be careful.
There's a bit of that. There's a bit of that with Essendon with their older players, but I think Hooker and Hurley are sort of their bookends.
It's probably only Hooker is the only one.
Yeah, Hurley.
Yeah, but he hasn't played.
No,
this year.
I understand that, but I'm saying for this year.
The other one is Heppel, like his body will hold up.
But Fremantle, the reality is that Mundy and Fyfe are still very important to them.
Yeah.
But they've got a lot of really good young players.
No doubt.
Their future is okay.
Yeah. But you still got to get your personnel out there consistently for a period of time. At the moment, Fremantle haven't been able to do that.
No, but
it cost them last. They were right in that game.
Yeah, but they were. I think if you look at Fremantle and Essendon's list, they're the 2 lists where you think they'll be okay in the future because of the amount of good quality youngsters they've got. They've got a really big group of them. They've got pretty good depth. But it's just a question of how much Fremantle particularly rely on still on those really older players. Mundy was amazing again last night.
He's going well. He's our man. He's our man, David. He's going very, very well. Very well indeed. So no issues there from his perspective. That's the Fremantle situation. We'll talk more about that through the morning, especially after 7 with Jim. Was there anything that stood out to you from a major story from the footy in the weekend?
A major
like a
story.
headline grabbing.
Something wrong with the footballs again?
What?
Something wrong with the footballs again?
What do you mean?
Aaron Norton, Taylor Walker, Jack Higgins.
Didn't worry Jamie Elliott.
Didn't worry, Jamie, your man.
I'm just wondering if there was something wrong
Jamie
with
got the
football.
Didn't worry Liam Ryan.
Well, that was in the same match as Taylor Walker, so it couldn't have been. But just the one end. They just changed them.
I just reckon there's a lot of blokes that aren't very good kicks.
Fatigue.
I felt sorry for Higgins in the end.
Pressure.
He didn't want the ball in his hand.
Well, what else is it?
What?
Taylor Walker's a
They're
beautiful
not very
kick of the
good
footy.
kicks.
Are you telling me Taylor Walker's not a good kick for goal?
Taylor
Yeah, well, Taylor Walker had a bad
Well,
day.
hang on a second. You can't have your cake and eat it.
He's
Even though we would
outstanding
all like
kick
to.
When you've got blokes that are 20 metres out from goal, pretty much straight in front, trying to kick snaps around the corner because they can't trust themselves to kick a drop punt,
Yes.
they are blokes that aren't good kicks.
Well, that's not necessarily right. They just kick differently.
No,
So Taylor Walker.
I won't cop that.
Taylor Walker hurt your argument there. Hurt your
Well,
argument.
but you'd be
But-
like
but-
a
but-
golfer. A golfer can have a bad day where you think, "What's going on? There's something wrong." Go and fix it. Good the next week.
So who else?
What's that?
There were Jack and what's his name? Aaron. They had bad days in front of
Aaron
sticks.
Norton is a horrendous kick.
We just said Jack and Aaron had a bad kick.
Yeah, but Aaron's always a bad kick.
No, but we just said Jack and Aaron are bad kicks.
Yeah, no,
Did it cost you multi?
What's that?
Was there an SGM involved here?
no.
No, not for goals.
Why do we
Aaron,
do goals? Why don't we do goals?
He wouldn't do goals.
my wife does goals. I do
He
possession.
got upset at me.
We sit on the couch next to each other, betting for different things.
I got a nasty text message on Friday about the goal, like for face-off for goals. He wasn't happy.
What? It's a draw.
He wasn't happy with me.
Why?
Fantastic.
It was a draw, wasn't it?
No, I think you won, didn't you?
No, it was a draw. 2 goals each. So Rama and I have to have a kick-off.
I'd love to.
I'd love to too.
I'd love to.
not
We
again.
went down that path.
Not
Yeah,
again.
we kick with the flat ball.
You embarrassed,
Ah,
you embarrassed
it was
yourself.
blaming balls again. I got Taylor Walker over there. Or are you Aaron Norton or Taylor Walker? Did you just have a bad day?
Taylor
Or you-
Walker. I want to talk about Aaron Norton later when Jimmy comes in.
Righto. Gee, you're upset. You're up and about this
No,
morning.
because I get frustrated about excuses given to people that can't kick in front of goal, who are forwards. I get frustrated by it. And that comment, I hope you're only joking.
Which part?
Fatigue.
Well, that's
Like-
a factor in goal kicking, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And to think otherwise is naive, Adam, and you're not naive.
No, I won't cop it.
Okay, well, you're naive. That's fine.
No, that's an excuse.
No, it's not.
It
It's
absolutely is
absolutely
an
reason.
excuse.
It's a very different game these days to the old days. And Jim will talk to you about this because I discussed
Well, don't
this.
run stupidly more than you have to then.
Well, hang on a second. You've just succumbed a little bit there. You've just succumbed a little to
No,
my
I won't.
line of
I'm not going to
line
cop
of thinking there. Jim will talk you through this a little bit later on because we've had this discussion before. That's what we'll do. Hey, what did I see before? Did you see in Catalonia across the weekend? In fact, last night, our man did it again. Remy Gardner's won it again.
Did he really?
Moto 2.
He's good, this young man.
He signed his MotoGP contract last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, and he's won again. He's hot to trot, as they say in the classics. His Red Bull KTM is flying at the moment, and he's pole position, and then won the race, the Catalan Grand Prix, MotoGP 2, Moto 2, and he's done it again. So he's going absolutely gangbusters, our man. So we think that's great stuff for Remy. We're going to see him in the top category next season. Speaking of Aussies in the top category, Jack Miller finished third in the MotoGP version of that weekend's racing. Miguel Oliveira was the winner from Red Bull KTM in the major category. Johan Zarco finished in second, and then Aussie Jack in third. So it was a good weekend for Australians on the 2 wheels. On the 4 wheels at Azerbaijan, I was watching this last night.
Yeah, I fell asleep. Who won that race?
Sergio Perez won it.
Oh.
Sergio Perez beat Sebastian Vettel. Now, there's a whole lot of carnage because Max Verstappen was in full control.
Yes.
And then produced a DNF for us. He had that race absolutely in his keeping, and then produced a DNF, so bad result for poor Maxi. But Sergio got through and took the 25 points there for Red Bull. Daniel Ricciardo, in his McLaren, finished in 9th position, which was 4 behind his teammate Lando Norris. He just cannot get that car to drive fast at the moment.
It was remarkable watching. I actually watched some of that last night, which is surprising in itself. But
you're coming around.
Not really, but it was the street circuit, so that sort
great.
of caught my attention a little bit. But just how narrow it was like they were trying to zip around Doncaster Shopping Town car park. You know, like it was just ridiculous how people were going to be able to pass on that circuit. It was quite remarkable.
It's difficult. That's why the DRS is such an important part of the system these days.
Maybe some of the full forwards should have DRS. Will that help with their goal kicking?
No, because they're
They'll
under
be
fatigue.
too tired.
They're under
Their
fatigue.
legs will be too tired.
Under fatigue. Off the SMS, 15 minutes in, no mention of Dino. Can we just sort that out, please?
What a weekend.
What a weekend.
What a weekend he had.
What a weekend. My goodness.
Ruffy, Quaddy, see you later.
$11 Ruffy, which if you wanted to get the multiplier, that worked well for you as well. And then gets the 3.5 grand Quaddy.
What a weekend.
Thanks for coming, Dino. Thanks for coming. There's not much more you can do.
Nah.
It's been
He's paid for the year already.
Well, it's been a very profitable RSN breakfast club, to be perfectly honest, because Wednesday early mail, yes. Thursday early mail, yes. Friday early mail, yes.
Well, did we get a
Ruffy,
Friday too?
yeah,
Good on us.
You tweeted about it.
I forget. what I did.
Ruffy, yes. Quaddy, yes. Thanks for coming.
Do you want a quick little story?
Tell me.
So I put a Quaddy on with my dad and my brother and my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Dad's turn to put the Quaddy on.
Oh, no.
So last leg 16-1. Yep, number 16-1.
Yep.
Dad decided to put number 15.
Oh, no! Oh, no!
So he rings me. I knew what was going on, and I just ignored him on Saturday.
So you knew the number wasn't in?
Yeah. So he rings me on Sunday. And he goes, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He's small talking me. I said, when are you going to acknowledge it? He goes, oh, don't worry. I'll put the money in myself.
He's going to put in
Yeah,
what
so
you
I
lost.
think we had 12% or 13% of it or whatever. So he goes, that was the end of it. He didn't argue, nothing. Just, I'll put the money in myself.
That's great. What's he doing?
I just,
How did he get that wrong?
made a mistake.
Oh, Dad.
Dad's still a bit old school. He likes to, fill out the form and all that sort of stuff. But
No. We just
Not
need to work
anymore.
out. We just need to work out what the pose is going to be for the statue. I think we just need to work out what it's going to look like. What
Arms crossed. So.
Arms crossed.
looking into the...
Just gazing into the distance,
or maybe
like
with
in
the binoculars
in the
sort
Manning
of
yard, just
draped
focus.
around the neck.
We need to work out what the pose is. In fact, SMS us through that 0416 90 50 52 because the statue's been commissioned. John's on the road. Hello, John.
Hey, fellas, how are you?
Yeah, good, buddy. How are you?
Quite proud of the Bombers, mate. Bit disappointed with the umpire, and
Oh, you're not blaming
it's
the
going to
umpire.
pay holding the ball. Well, just tell everybody. Absolutely pathetic, the umpires. How much do they get a game?
Good question.
And right in front of them, they drop the ball, play on. Like, really? If you're not going to pay it, just tell them.
Well, unfortunately, John, it's not
Don't ruin
exclusive.
the game.
Not exclusive to that game. That's the problem. That's the biggest.
Wasn't a great
bugbear
weekend
of
holding the ball.
of the fans at
Yeah,
the moment. That
but-
situation.
But the interesting thing was that in some games,
Come on, pen back, Rama.
No.
in some games, the game was umpired actually very well. In other games, the game was umpired completely differently. And that's the frustration I find more than anything else. The Friday night game, I thought the game was umpired extremely well. They were a lot hotter on a few things. And then Saturday night, and then even Sunday night, they weren't. Maybe the umpires in the West didn't get the memo for the umpires that were in the East.
Too busy in their hazmat suits to be able to get access to the data on the computer. Wouldn't work with the biometric scanner. Oh no, he's emotional, the big man.
But doesn't that frustrate you? That you watch the game on the Friday night and think, okay, they're umpiring it differently this week, but that's okay, don't mind that. And then you start watching on Saturday night. Nah, they're very different. It's like a different sport.
Well, it does lend itself to the suggestion that there is no rule of the week or umpiring template they use week to week. It does lend itself to that for those that think along those lines. My understanding is it's not Ben Everill's birthday, but any chance you get to be covering the world of golf must be your birthday, I reckon. He's on the line from the PGA Tour. Ben, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm just standing at the 12th tee at beautiful Muirfield Village as the lead group just walked through to the green, and Lovely day out here. The cicadas are chirping away, as you can hear, but we've had some drama over the last day and a half here.
Well, that's putting it lightly, Ben. Tell us, just for those that may not be aware, what's happened in the last couple of days there at Muirfield?
Well, of course, yesterday afternoon, it looked like a procession for the defending champion, John Rahm. He was just absolutely flying, making a birdie on just about every hole on the back nine. He fashioned himself a 6-shot lead. And then as he walked off the 18th green, he found out that he had in fact tested positive for COVID-19, was immediately withdrawn from the tournament, that he was almost certainly going to win, losing the chance at $1.8 million in the process. Oh. And all of a sudden we had game on. And Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay and Scotty Scheffler in a pretty ding-dong battle right now on the back nine trying to win this thing.
Yeah, so we've got a good challenge and good battle for the tournament as we speak. It would have been all over, we would think, if Johnny was still there. Just the way that was done, Ben, I must admit, I was sitting there going, hang on a second, this can't be right. So he gets told by two blokes who are wearing masks, but they're patting him on the back and they're giving him consolation hugs almost, as if to say, sorry, pal. But there's no real regard for social distancing or anything like that. And why wouldn't his playing partner have been tested or disqualified or had to withdraw? Why just Johnny in all this?
So basically, if you're not vaccinated, there are different rules for those who are. Not that we were given the admission that John is or isn't vaccinated, but you can read between the lines by what protocol he was in. He was informed on Monday that he had been in close contact with somebody in the tour bubble that had been tested, that had been positive for COVID-19, and as such, as a non-vaccinated player, he would be subject to testing every day from Monday onwards.
Right.
He tested negative. He tested negative every day until between his second and third round, which was the morning yesterday because of rain delays. At about 4 o'clock, with a few holes to go, they found out that he had a tested positive. They didn't pull him off the course right away because they wanted to be absolutely sure. They had it retested, and that result came in literally as he was on the 18th green. And as far as the sort of protocol of how that was done, the gentleman in question who had to tell him was a doctor, not necessarily a tour staff member. So they probably not fully up to speed on the fact that would be on the cameras, et cetera, and he was just thinking, I need to get this guy into a mask before we take him inside and out of here.
So could he have not played in a group by himself at the today and just played at the back end of the field or the start of the field by himself and completed with a mask on and all that sort of stuff and some protocols in place? Could he have not played all the way through anyway, considering he'd already been out there with the virus effectively?
Well, that would have essentially gone against America's CDC guidelines, which is exactly the protocol that they've been following here on tour, and as such it would have essentially changed the rules as it happened,
right.
Which, it would have been deemed not necessarily fair, considering everyone's played under the same scenario from the start of this, a year and a bit ago. So they just had to, and also, the thing is, if John tests negative, this evening and then again the following evening, he's out of isolation. But the problem is you have to wait 24 hours for his test, and he would not have been able to start and have two clear tests, obviously, in 2 days.
Right.
So this sort of thing had happened it happened on Monday, but then he retested Tuesday and Wednesday and was clear, he would have been able to start on Thursday.
Big news in the world of tennis across the weekend too. This statement from Roger Federer, midway through the French Open, of course. After discussions with my team, I've decided I will need to pull out of the French Open today after 2 knee surgeries and over a year of rehabilitation. It's important that I listen to my body and make sure I don't push myself too quickly on my road to recovery. I'm thrilled to have gotten 3 matches under my belt. There's no greater feeling than being back on court. See everyone soon. Roger, out of the French Open. There's been some big news across the weekend. Craig Gabriel joins us wearing a fresh Lacoste polo today. Hello, Craig.
It wasn't a polo today. It was actually a business shirt.
Was it?
Business shirt, yeah, with a tie today and the darker trousers as well from Lacoste.
And the tie, that's a different look for you. I haven't seen that on you for a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, I used to wear ties every single day, but now with Lacoste being in my side of the court, we mix it up.
Right. Roger's out. Now, there's been some big news across the weekend there at Roland Garros, but there's not too many bigger than when the great man decides that he's had enough. He can't back it up after his 3rd round encounter.
Well, he certainly hinted at it last night. It wasn't as if this has come right out of the blue. It almost was like a throwaway line last night, but then he did expand on it a little bit more later in his post-match media conference. He was run ragged last night. You could see it on him. It was a very late match. It finished at about 2:45, 10 to 1 in the morning, and by the time he came in for his post-match, it was like 2 o'clock. So it was very late, and it was a grind. Well, no, not a grind. It was grueling for him. I mean, 4 sets over 3.5 hours. As he said, I haven't trained for a 3.5-hour clay court match. Most of his concentration is for the grass, but he wanted to play the French to get more into a swing of things, to get more match practice. And he was never expecting to do as well as he's done. He said that, and he said it at the beginning. And he always made the point that Wimbledon is the target. That's what he's after. So in one sense, it's not surprising. He's got 3 matches under his belt. He's won all of those. And, he's been made to work for a couple of them. So I think he's got what he actually wanted. And he's got to take care of this because the knee is an issue. He's had 2 surgeries, as you were just saying on the statement he had. And he can't risk that blowing out on him just before Wimbledon or the grass court season.
So, Craig, do you see this as Roger thinking, I'm a chance now at Wimbledon, or do you see it as him saying, I need to withdraw just to be a chance of playing there?
No, look, he always felt that he was a chance to win, to actually go all the way at Wimbledon. It's in his mind. I think he doesn't want to risk an injury because he was so stretched last night by Dominic Kopfer that, it takes a wrong step and it could result in an injury because he's going to be a bit tired and his muscles are going to be stretched and things like that. So he doesn't want to take that sort of a chance.
So, Craig, is this a situation of Roger getting old, or is this a situation of him just coming off the knee surgeries and wanting to give himself a better chance at Wimbledon rather than having to play Berrettini and then Nadal? They were the next 2 matches if he was to continue on.
Yes. It was more the fact that he's been off the tour for a year, he's had 2 injuries, he's rehabbed for so long, and he hasn't played that much. So, he's as he said, you got to listen to the body and not take those chances. He'd love to have played on. I think if he was like 5 or 7 years younger, he probably would have. But at 39, 40 on the 8th of August, you can't take those sort of chances. And I think he's done the sensible thing. Yes, there are going to be some critics who say, well, the French Open or a major is not a warm-up event for the next major. And the other aspect is he's denied somebody a chance to go a bit further in the tournament, it being Dominic Kopfer. So that's the argument on the other side.
James.
Yes, Daniel.
Is the top 8 set?
No.
It's not?
No.
Oh, no. Good. I like this.
I don't think it is. I'm not ruling anyone out just yet. Just yet.
Is that
because the Giants
are 10?
No. The ones currently in at the moment, and it's if they had a full list of players, they're set. But the unfortunate thing for West Coast is every week they seem to lose one. And then they seem to lose the good ones too. And that was an unbelievably gutsy win, I thought, from West Coast, who have been poor on the road.
Yep.
They lose Brad Shepherd early in the game. I know Carlton people will talk about Carlton a bit later, but I'm just talking about West Coast.
Yep.
Shepherd's been a super player, underrated in a way, even though he's All-Australian. Yep. They lose him early, which structurally affects them. Flying Ryan got a bit of cramp in the last quarter as well. Played a lot of young kids who I thought were super. There's a few that I like the look of the kid.
Yep.
I really like the look of Harry Edwards.
That's Tyson's boy, isn't it?
No, that's Luke.
Luke Edwards. Sorry, the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke was very good on debut as well. Had some composure. Surprise, surprise, being the son of Tyson Edwards, who speaking of underrated, his career's been underrated grossly. He used to brain us.
Tyson Edwards.
Oh, so
He's a
good.
champ.
So good. Could play anyway. Anyway, we keep getting sidetracked, but West Coast, it's not disrespecting West Coast, and their supporters get a little bit funny. Oh, you forget about us. But if you keep losing Kennedy, Kelly, McGovern, it's just one after another. Shuey.
There's a couple more that we're forgetting here.
Yeah, I know, but so they just one after another, and sometimes you run it, then you run into sides. So Richmond, who are hot, they got Richmond,
McGovern.
Dogs, Swans in the next few. It's just how many wins they can get, like holding the fort. That's why yesterday is important for the Eagles. Are you still knocking on the door, Essendon propaganda boys? Because if the 8's not set, well, you're a chance to come in.
I didn't have that, obviously, a win for Essendon. No. I think they can get to 11 or 12. They could, but that's best case scenario.
All right, let's turn around. Who are you guys putting out to have your Bombers in?
I'm not putting anyone out. I think it's set. The only team I think is a little vulnerable is Sydney.
Yep. Sydney?
Yep.
At 8-4?
Yep.
3 games in?
Yep.
Righto.
So if Sydney went
They're the only one I could have as out.
So if Sydney go 500, to use the American term, they're in.
They got Hawthorn on Friday night.
Yeah.
They'll win that.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing nearly as well as they were playing at the start of the year. But they're finding a way to win, and that's what they've done the last 2 weeks against Carlton and St Kilda. They've coughed and spluttered their way over the line. Their midfield is down, particularly numbers-wise. A lot of their more experienced players just aren't getting the footy as much as they were, but they're finding a way to win. I just don't think they're playing as well.
So after Hawthorn, they go the Port Adelaide pair, West Coast Eagles. We just mentioned
50.
West Coast might be down to 10 men on their list by then. The Bulldogs.
Tough.
And then they get the Giants, who should have a number of players back by that stage.
No, to win. Sorry, Jim. That was just to antagonise.
I appreciate it.
All tiebreaker games.
Yeah, but apart from the Bulldogs, I mean, they should, but the Bulldogs should win that game. But outside of that, they're all tie-break games. But they've got the Hawks this week to get to 9 and 4. That'd be helpful. They shouldn't
Sydney
lose from there.
Hawthorn Friday night. Ugh.
Well, it's a bye round, so this is what happens in the bye rounds. We get average games in key slots.
No thanks.
They have to play each other at some stage, remember?
Oh, no, but not Friday night.
Well, while we're talking about the scheduling, do we know what's happening with Port Adelaide and Geelong yet? Is that going to be happening? Because one of the assumptions this week, or last night, was that Geelong would have to go into hotel quarantine to save their families from having to be in house quarantine.
Yeah, correct.
For this week, because they'd be dirty, according to the South Australian government. Is that right? Did I read that right?
Correct. Yep. So Geelong is obviously regional. They're out of lockdown.
Yes.
But because of the strict lockdowns that the AFL want on and governments want on Victorian teams still. So Geelong plays with kids. They're all going back at school and the like. They're doing all that sort of stuff. But if the player stays at home,
and it is strict quarantine.
Strict.
So no one's out of the house.
Nope.
I wonder what they'll do.
Hotel.
That will happen?
Yep.
Everyone goes to the hotel?
Yep.
Next stage will be playing with motorbike helmets on.
Not a bad idea.
That's if it goes ahead on Thursday night. There's still some conjecture about whether or not that will happen.
They're confident that it will, though.
It hasn't been confirmed.
No, but that's confirmed. This is what they do, the governments, though, isn't it? They just sort of, they're in control. They've got the power, and they'll let them play in the end.
It's a stretched out weekend too, Ramo. It's Thursday to Monday this week. One game Thursday, one game Friday.
Silly on a
2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, 1 game Monday. And that's with an extra one thrown in. With the West Coast Richmond thrown in, it's going to be 7 games this weekend, 5 games.
It's not a super round of football.
No,
you
but
look at it and go, Port Adelaide, Geelong, good game. West Coast Richmond,
good game.
Maybe a good game.
West Coast has got potential to be a good game.
Yeah.
Melbourne, Collingwood. Well, after the Pies' performance on the weekend, who knows?
Who knows?
Let's go to Friday night, Jim. Let's go all the way back.
In the Wayback Machine.
In the Wayback Machine, because we had a really good encounter. 1v3, I think it might have been, prior to the game. Melbourne looked all at sea in the first half against the Brisbane Lions, who put on a really good show. And then all of a sudden, something changed at half-time, Jim, and the Demons said, you know what, we don't care what's happened in the last 50 years. We're a really good team right now, and we believe we can. We're going to do it.
Yeah, can we do cut and paste here on each Monday for when we talk about the Demons? And the same words keep coming up is maturity.
Yes.
And it's actually belief in the system that, you know, you mightn't crack a side in the first half, but it might be the... Cameron Ling always used to say this to us down Geelong. It might take the last 4 minutes or the last minute of the last quarter But if we stay strong to what we know, it will happen. Now,
So talk me through that, because I reckon that's good mindset and good conversation about this generation, this evolution of the Ds. What does that do for you? When Lingies used to say that, what did that do for the group?
well, it emphasised what Melbourne are doing really well, what Richmond have done well for a number of years, my Geelong side, probably the Hawthorn great side, is that just be a master in your role and don't step outside that. Become a master in it. We'll celebrate it, and I've spoken about this. We'll celebrate Alex Neil-Bullen and Charlie Spargo on the forward line as much as we'll celebrate Christian Petrarca.
Yep.
And we'll celebrate Harrison Petty as much as we celebrate Stephen May and Lever and Salem down back. Now, if you just keep staying to your role and what you do, and you do it really well, and you master it, Simon Goodwin will come and pat me on the back and the coaching staff. Don't step outside that. Now, that takes it away from, when you hear sides go, oh, we don't focus on the scoreboard. That's actually what it is. It's not worrying, oh, geez, I've got to go get another 4 or 5 touches to make us good. Forwards, geez, I need to kick a quick 2 here for us to get us back in front. That's being the individual. Although the intent's right, I'm trying to help us win, it's not the right way to do it.
It's reinforcement.
Yeah.
From a senior player, when you hear that, it's reinforcement. It's okay. Yep. What we know, what we do, will eventually be good enough. We just need to be close. Now, at halftime in that game, it was 20 points. It got out to 22 points at one stage. But what I found most impressive about Melbourne on Friday night is that tactically they didn't go and change. They didn't go and flip the magnets or go and sit on a particular player. They got to work around the contest. That was the biggest thing. They were, I think it was plus 10 clearances, Brisbane, plus 20 emotional contested football. And then they flipped that. They completely turned that in the second half.
Yeah, and it was intent. Like, you hear Christian Petrarca post-game go, geez, we were boring.
Yeah, yep.
And that's the difference with Melbourne this year. And even when I watched the last, sort of 15, 20 minutes of Richmond on the weekend, sorry, Bombers, boys, is their intent when the game is on the line is not to retreat. It's to keep speed on the game, keep attacking, keep repeat outnumbering, take the game forward. So a number of times with Richmond, and I saw this from Melbourne, as well as you take the contest on and you move the game forward. You just don't bail out, take the safe option, go backwards, sideways. That's their very, very last resort.
Yep.
Like, you take the tackler on, it creates that overlap, which helps you score.
Let's have a listen to Simon Goodwin after the win on Friday night. The D's victorious over the Brisbane Lions.
I think the group's been terrific at being able to reset in game right throughout the season, but that's as impressive as we've had, to come off the back of last week's game into another Friday night game and be under the pump at half-time, 20 points down. Our ability to respond and get the game back, looking like a Melbourne game and feeling that way. I'm incredibly proud for them and also wrapped for our supporters.
Simon Goodwin, wrapped for the supporters, just maturity is what he was saying, effectively what Jim was saying there.
Just a question for the three of you who've been involved in a halftime situation, is that when things aren't going well, it's not a question of the coach just saying, try harder.
No.
What are you being told at halftime to change? Are you seeing edits? Is it whiteboard stuff? Is it because Melbourne clearly changed and changed quite dramatically. They didn't panic, but they changed.
You look now at halftime because the cameras get into the room, obviously very close. They get into their groups, their midfield, their forward, their back, and there's a big TV always sitting there. There's particular edits. A lot of the midfield stuff will be around, well, who's at the source, who's in the 1 metre radius, and then who's on the outside of that 5 metre radius. So that would have been shown clearly for the Ds. The defenders then are shown, well, where are we? Where are we with our direct opponent? Where are we with our drop-off? What are we doing here? Are we allowing easy hit-up? There's an easy hit-up for Brisbane in that first half. So Hipwood was on top, no doubt, in that first half, and Zach Bailey was on top. He was roaming in that first half. So tighten the screws on those. Then the forwards. Okay, what are we doing? What's our work rate like? You look at Cozzy Pickett in the third quarter. His work rate lifted enormously in that first quarter. Off they went. The other part, too, is that as an overall, team will look at run. You look at your overlap run. I thought Melbourne started to run in that second half. Overlap run. Trent Rivers a number of times from half back. He may have not have got the ball, but he was running. He was creating space. He was he was enterprising with what he was trying to do.
Jimmy, you talked about that in the coverage yesterday in the Carlton West Coast game about run from behind and overlap run and these sorts of things.
So important.
So is that an intent thing or is that an intensity thing? Why does it not happen from a first half perspective to a second half? I know you're playing against an opposition, so that's half the battle. But
yeah, Ramo touched on it with a couple of points. You've got to be able to identify it quickly. Now, it comes into a couple of areas for me. If I'm sitting in the coach's box, firstly, is it structurally? Is that the reason why we can't get it done? So, meaning, do we have the right amount of numbers at the stoppage, or we're playing deep enough with our forwards, or are they up high? So, real structural sort of thing. You're going, well, am I putting the players in a position to actually thrive and win this contest? If you think, yeah, we're pretty good, well, then it comes down to positioning in the structure, as Ramo was talking about. Maybe our backs are just giving a little bit too much leg rope, which is allowing Hipwood and as he mentioned, Bailey, too much space. So then you sort that out. So it's positional in the structure. Then it might be, well, the position's pretty good. Well, then is it an actual personnel thing? Have I got the right mix? So you're sort of just going through this almost flow chart. Checklist. This is what I'd be doing in the coach's box. Well, okay, I'm just making up. Is the mix of Oliver, Harms, Petrarca the right mix? Do I need to throw Cozzy in a little bit more because we need some forward, a little bit of creativity to open up the stoppage to expose Brisbane on the outside? That's just a hypothetical. So I'd be doing that. Is it then a player thing? And then if you get to the last one where it just then turns into a motivational thing where that's where it might be the rocket. It might be, the cuddle, like, hey, Cozzy, you're awesome, mate. When, you hit front and square, we need you, a bit of energy. Can you give us a bit of bounce on the forward line, create something? Backs, Jake Lever, can you just, maybe start peeling over? You can be a little bit more creative. Just play on, make it up as you go. Christian Salem. Yeah. Like, not too slow. Let's just get moving a bit forward, which was what Christian Petrarca was talking about. Geez, we're boring. That's where you're going to guys, hey, come on, show me a bit. Like, be a bit creative because, the flow-on effect is, Christian, if you roll off the mark, all the forwards will start moving. Forwards naturally, if you go off the mark, the forwards will move. If you go slow back off the mark, they just can just put their hand up and go, hey, just lob it in deep here. So that'd be my flow chart of 4 things. That's a real just basic way of explaining it.
No, it's good.
What a good senior player does, an experienced player, they get to the young players. So Melbourne still had, I think, 5 or 6 players under 50 games in their team on the weekend. So saying to Cozzy Pickett just before the balls bounced after halftime, Cozzy, we need you. I just need you. Come on, give me something for the first 5 minutes. The moment he does something really well, you go over to him and you make a big deal of it. You make him feel like he's running over the top of the ground. You make him feel like the contribution that he just made was so important. And you've got to get a lift. You've got to go from one to the next, and you get a lift. And once you get a lift out of 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 start to follow on. And that's what good senior players are able to do.
So the 3 of you watching that game on Friday night, did you wake up on Saturday morning and think that Brisbane looked a bit slow? Or was it just that Melbourne were too good?
I thought it was Melbourne too.
I thought it was Melbourne. Who's it say more about?
Yeah.
I thought it was all Melbourne.
Yeah. I think Melbourne are the best team in it.
Yeah.
At the moment. It's hard to argue. Brisbane are pretty good. Yeah. They're not fast.
No, well, they're not.
But they move the ball all right. So you don't necessarily need to have leg speed for that.
The one area that I noticed for Brisbane is when the ball moved fast, Brisbane then looked really gettable, particularly down. Like Harris Andrews was just getting a fist in the second half at times, whereas he'd usually be there in that position. So that's what I noticed. Once the overlap run started, the fast ball movement started, the get over the back started, Brisbane their defensive setup was well out of place, and they looked susceptible.
Because sometimes there's a difference between looking slow and looking tired. Yeah. Brisbane had won 7 in a row. It just looked that they weren't quite up for the fight when Melbourne got rolling in that second half. And that's okay considering how long they've been up for.
Yeah, I'm not disappointed or down on Brisbane. I just thought it said more about Melbourne. They've run into the best team who's complete at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's... What Melbourne aren't wanting for anything, are they? Positionally,
no, they're going okay. And
no Viney. Sorry, they had no Viney or Langdon in that midfield either.
Yeah, well, those two come back in. Langdon definitely comes back in. Viney will come back in, no doubt, when he's fit.
Makes them better.
Too good. They were. Brisbane still in the top 4, 8-4 after 12 rounds. As Port Adelaide looking to put them out this weekend.
Just on that, you consider how we're talking about Brisbane to start the season. was sort of scratching her head going, ooh, what's going on here? Now, to turn where they are at 8-4, I think they'll be very happy.
Well, the term Half likes to use, boarding house puddings, they de-pudding themselves, didn't they?
They de-puddinged. They did de-pudding. It's exactly what they did. Are we talking prelims for the Ds at the moment? Are we talking if they don't make a prelim, it's a fail now? Do we look that far ahead, or are we just worrying about this game in front of us?
No, you have to, because they're the top two side.
Yep, okay.
And look, injuries, we've always put the asterisks on injuries. You still need good luck going forward. Like, you just don't know what's going to unfold.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is at the moment, they're 3 games clear inside the top 2. Now, they've played one more game than
Geelong.
Port Adelaide, and Geelong that could push that up. But as it stands at the moment, they're 3 games clear inside the top 2.
They've got the Land Rovers parked, fresh set of RM Williams, bone-coloured chinos, and a nice little tartan shirt to take the cheese platter with. First final at the MCG on a Friday night.
Magnificent.
Fast. He's a dangerous small forward that gets lots of shots at goal, and to get 7 shots at goal, he's probably going to be best on if he kicks 6-1 instead of 1-6. So he's had a fair game, but he just hasn't done the last part of it. And that's put the ball through the sticks. But that's part of the game. He's a professional. He needs to keep working hard, and sometimes you have days where it just doesn't happen for you. But he just needs to get his routine right, and he's just one of a number of players that we're still working through that as well.
7:29 on a Monday morning. Great to have Jimmy Bartell with us on the Monday Footy Review after round 12. That is the voice of Brett Ratton, the coach of the Saints, who were not victorious in their quest to defeat the Sydney Swans at the SCG on Saturday. They went down by 9 points, but they did have a few chances, and he was talking about Jack Higgins, Jim.
Yes.
He kicked 1 goal, 6.
Yes. I did this game. He was so good, but without, as they said, without doing the final bit.
Yep.
Look, from the minute the game started, he was finding the footy, he was marking, he was leading. Kicked the hardest one of the lot, mind you. It's always the case.
Off in the way.
About 40 out on the boundary, snap around the corner.
This is something that's always frustrated me. So a player will practice endlessly about kicking goals from the boundary, snapshots, this, that, and the other, but they don't practice in the V, where most goals, most chances are.
See, I'd be surprised if they didn't do that. That surprised me.
Okay, so Kardinia Park, there's always a spot where you walk off the ground, and you stand there. You stand there endlessly kicking goals there in that position.
Yeah, maybe I was different because I'd always get out and practice them. Personally, I always used to buy a bag of footballs off the property steward, and I'd throw them in the back of the car. Because that was, for me, my release from football was to realise why I played footy, which was fun, kicking the ball at the park. So I'd take the dog up the park every Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon and have shots at goal. Just a bit of fun. You kick 10 through, hopefully find a little kid walking around going, hey, I'll give you $5, I'll kick him back to me. So I didn't have to go chasing. But it was a technique thing in the end. He even tried to run around the second last one. I'll hit it on the move. So he was trying different things. Brett Ratton, if he kicks 6 goals, 1, he'd be probably best on ground. He would be clearly best on ground.
Yes.
23 and 6. That's
a good day.
That's a monster day. But I felt sorry for the guy because he wasn't the only reason why they lost. And this is the thing. We'll focus on his last 2 shots. But Seb Ross missed one from 2 metres out. They had 17 centre bounce clearances and didn't score once.
Which is remarkable at the SCG.
Which is harder to do than you think.
Yeah.
Not even a rushed behind.
Yeah, but Max probably couldn't catch a cold on Saturday.
He still did what he had to. Like, he kicked a couple. But even some of their defensive position, they got caught out at the SCG because you can get really short in defence. A couple of times they got caught out there. So there was a number of other areas for the Saints.
Yes, I mean...
But let's talk about goal kicking.
Let's do that. I'm ready.
Here you go.
You ready, Waddy?
He's fully armed. He hasn't said a word for 10 minutes. He's been doing data.
Yeah.
I've been asking some maths questions.
Doc Wheeldon over there. Can I just highlight a few things before you go into the goal kicking, how it's changed? And I know it is one area of the game, it's the line we always use, the one area of the game that hasn't improved rapidly.
That's true.
But there are a few elements. This is not defensive of all you poor goal kickers because you should be working on it. But there are elements to it.
Okay. You're going to get some kickback on these from our man.
I hope so. I hope so. Because let's discuss it in a mature way, Daniel.
There's no chance of that.
No chance of that. This gets him very emotional. A lot more players on the field are taking shots these days than back in the glory days.
Yep.
Because it was the traditional full forward and even your centre forward. If you're goal kickers, if you kick 15 goals, your full forwards probably kick 7.
Yep.
Centre forwards kick 3, and then you get some little
Ones and twos.
Yep.
Also, fatigue factor.
Oh, don't mention that around here.
We're taking shorter time to take the shots.
Yes.
We are. Well, it's clearly. When did timing come into the game?
Not long ago.
So you can't me on that one.
I
I
haven't
did.
said anything.
I
yet.
did.
That was Rama.
You can't on that one. Whoever threw the in.
That was Rama.
I did.
He's coming. The other fella's
Because
Hang on.
I'm with Boomer here. Players don't practice goal kicking under fatigue.
Oh, and this is where I'm going to now agree with you guys. Players don't practice under fatigue, and it is a mental game still, and that's why we still haven't conquered it. Because really, the little man gets on the shoulder. There's some crowd around. The moment of the game awareness comes into play. Ooh, I've missed the last 3 or 4. It's being able to diagnose your kicking. That's the key to it. Getting out to training, as you're talking, Rama. If I've missed one right, you should be able to know why you've missed one right. That's the art of goal kicking.
But that's got nothing to do with fatigue.
It does have a lot to do with fatigue.
Of course it does.
What? Mentally not being able to do it under pressure.
To execute it.
Can I get you to run 4 times up and down the hallway here?
And then see if you can nail a putt.
My counter-argument to that is, and you can say it's naive and I don't care, is that these forwards...
So what were we saying?
Because these forwards that are paid to kick goals go all the way up to half-back and all this sort of rubbish.
Agree.
Don't get so tired. You won't get so tired if you stay closer to home.
I should have just thought of that when I did the 3K time trial. Just don't get tired.
No, but these forwards spend all their time running all the way up and then they're all the way back. Just stay back. Just stay back. Stay in a dangerous spot.
Seriously, don't be one of those people. The game's played differently now. It is.
I hear that all the time.
It is. It is.
Well, you know it is.
That's the way the coach wants you to play.
Yeah, but don't.
Okay.
But someone then do it differently. Someone find a way
what
to
happened
actually
there,
stay your forwards.
Matthew Scarlett changed the game for a defender and a forward. Right? Because he would leave his forward in the goal square and then he would go and stand 70 metres ahead of him and just continually mark the ball.
So as it stands at the moment, these are I believe to be the 4 best goal kickers in the game, okay? Right. Who are key forwards. Tom Hawkins.
Yes.
Accuracy rate over the last 4 years, 61.68%. This is good stuff. Jack Revolt. Over the last 4 years, Jack Revolt, average 64.9. Josh Kennedy, accuracy 64.8. And then Taylor Walker, 62.8. Now, the 2 emerging forwards in Norton and Mackay's average or accuracy over the last 3 years is 55%, and Norton's accuracy is 56%.
Did you use Jack Darling? Did I miss him?
I haven't put Jack Darling.
Yeah, maybe have a look at Jack Darling.
Yeah, well, I didn't have time to do that.
Now,
compare that to the 2 greats that I would say.
Who's an unbelievable hard worker.
Who's that?
Jack Darling.
Okay, but I'm just going. This is the stuff I've got. Lockett.
Don't interrupt.
Lockett 69% accuracy. Matthew Lloyd was 68.
Yeah,
and
of
the current players currently in the game that I would say I would be happy to kick for perhaps not my life, but maybe, I don't know.
For lunch.
You've got Ben McAvoy at 73% accuracy. And then you've got, interestingly, Cox, Oscar Allen and Tom McDonald all at 68% accuracy.
It's also where you're taking your shots as well.
Correct.
But I will argue that Norton has got a problem.
How are you being told to move the ball up and down the
Norton has got a problem. Because
last night he did, no doubt.
Yeah, but he has had a problem on a few games.
Pushing them all left.
I'm with you on Norton.
Yeah,
it cost the Bulldogs against Richmond. It cost the Bulldogs against Melbourne, where he had a really important shot. Didn't kick it, went down the other end. Melbourne got a goal. 12-point play. They got away. And Mackay cost Carlton.
If I was Aaron Norton, I'd be putting a phone call into Matthew Lloyd or Scott Lucas being a left footer.
I'm with you on Norton. And we know that Mackay is not comfortable on the What side is it? The right,
Well,
left side. He's better around the corner than he's straight up and down.
And that's
fine.
fine.
That's fine because that's maximising your opportunity. That's being understanding your game. That's cool.
As a key forward, though, surely that's meant to be being paid all this money. He's got to be able to trust himself as a drop punt shot at
Why?
goal.
Why drop punt? What doesn't matter, does it?
Well, I
As
think
long
it
as it goes
does.
through.
Well, I reckon under pressure, there's more that it could go wrong with that kick around the body than it would be a drop punt from 30 metres out.
But that's
slope.
why
Have
they
a
do
look
that
at-
kick because
so
there's not as much that can
Hang
go
on.
wrong.
So you use Jack Revolt as an example. Go and look in those last 4 years how many snaps Jack has done from a set shot.
And I would argue that he shouldn't be doing that.
But that's his accuracy.
But
But that's why his accuracy's probably improved.
It's actually gone backwards.
But it might be with Norton and Harry Mackay a mechanical thing for them. Like the snaps. You look at the way Harry Mackay drops the footy on his set shots. When he misses, he drops on the outside, which is okay when you're snapping.
My point is that my point is that they've got to get better. They've got to find a way to get better. For me, I'm worried if I'm a Bulldogs coach and almost a Bulldogs player that as good as Norton is, he's going to let his team down in high-pressure environments in finals.
I heard Oscar Allen talking recently, and Oscar Allen, Josh Kennedy, and Jack Darling all went to the high-performance coach at West Coast Eagles and said, we need to put a premium on our goal kicking. So rather than...
That's great.
So rather than after training and all that, sort of when you're mucking around doing set shots, they put the premium on it in training. So if they miss a drill and they're doing set shots for goal under fatigue, that's much more important than the extra K&a-half they may run in the training session. So they've gone themselves as a group of key forwards and said, this is what we want to do, this is what we need to do for our career.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to do that at training, that insert goal kicking during training.
Correct.
And the way they do it is, say if the drill was down one end, the whistle would be blown, and you'd have to sprint down to the other 50, and you'd grab all the coaches would be sort of lined up on the 50, so you'd hit one on the run.
Yep.
Go get your own footy, schoolyard stuff, back out, and then you'd have to take the set shot. So that was the fatigue. You're trying to recreate the fatigue, so sprint down, take a set, hit one on the run, which is important, get it, come back out. You got the 30 seconds to hit your set shot, and then training back on. So they're just constantly blowing throughout training. So you're getting used to, taking the shot under fatigue.
Yep.
Jeez, I'm getting some big numbers here with Jack Darling. To back up your point.
Well, what's the number?
Well, I'm
He
really
can't work
trying,
out
right?
the maths. Needs to ask you again up.
Nick Larkey's going at 77%.
Yeah, he's going well.
77. Sample size, all that sort of stuff. A lot of factors involved in it. But your point about Norton and Mackay is well made.
Yeah.
I think most of us would agree with that.
And I reckon West Coast win games that they might not otherwise win because of their ability to convert their opportunities.
So
they get.
when you watch Norton and Mackay, do you think their set shot routine is exactly the same every time?
No.
Luke, what's his name? Norton spends most of his time looking at the screen to see how much time
That's
he's
what I'm
got
asking.
left.
So the really good goal kickers, the really, really good ones of all time, they did not change. Their routine was exactly the same every single shot.
And predominantly full forwards throughout their junior career and throughout their AFL career. Norton was a key back for his junior career. And technically...
He's going to be a gun key forward. Or
he's
he is a gun key
He's
forward.
a gun key forward. But also, a lot of the guys you're talking about with West Coast are technically very sound with their ball drop. Oscar Allen, for a big guy, is technically very sound. Flan Ryan is technically very sound. Although we used to giggle with Kennedy, with his... You watch his hand to foot.
Same every time.
Jack Darling, very sound.
70.9% Jack Darling in his last 4 years.
70.9. Jack Darling. 70.
But ball movement helps where you're taking the shots.
Yeah.
You're in the V.
Yeah, West Coast. 30 metres out in the V.
You need to do some more research on categories V and outside.
And key forward versus small forward. So we've been talking about Jack Higgins, small forward, taking shots from boundary.
Jamie Elliott Saturday night? His first four goals in the V.
If Jamie Elliott didn't kick like that, Collingwood would not have won the game.
No,
That's
correct.
correct.
They simply would not have won the game. But I just don't think there's enough premium placed on that part of the game.
I disagree with
compared to 18-man zones and all this hard defensive running and forward pressure. Just kick the goal, mate.
Oh, I think that's a bit of a blanket statement that we've got into. They don't practice goal kicking. I'd be very,
But the
very
players complain that they don't.
Well, do something about it.
Take your career into your own hands.
Interesting point. So if you're Brett Ratton, Rama, Jim, Whitey, if you're Brett Ratton, what are you taking out of that game? What do you say? End of the game. You're sitting 5-7 now. That would have got you 6-6 and halfway after a relatively disappointing start, which would have been amazing. Correct, spot on. Formulator had to have a tough draw, so they got a chance to open up on the back end. What do you say?
I reckon it's so difficult for Brett Ratton. We've said this a few times. It's how hard you go. They've still got the same issues too. Like they get burnt on turnover, outspread, bit of creativity off halfback. I know they put Brad Hill down there, which I thought early in the game he was getting it in bad spots. As the game wore on, he got it in really good spots, which was being a bit more creative. I thought Jimmy Webster was pretty good across halfback for a fair bit of the game.
Yep.
But with Max King down, he played, but he was injured. He was injured, so he was anchored to the goal square. Tim Membry. So there was a lot of positives, but they do just miss a couple, don't they? They're just missing personnel. I don't know whether they've got it on their list yet or they still need to add to their list.
Outside the first sort of 20 minutes, the game was an arm wrestle all the way through, really. Sydney got a bit of a break leading into the back end of the third quarter, start of the last quarter, and then they kept coming the same. So there's a bit to like. They just couldn't finish, couldn't execute under the pressure, I suppose.
Next 4 for the Saints, the Crows by Richmond, Collingwood, Brisbane.
Crows by Richmond, Collingwood, Brisbane.
Two.
So
I think it's 50-50 with the Crows. Crows are going well. Richmond's going to be tough. They should beat Collingwood, and Brisbane should beat them.
I talked about those tiebreaker games. I always talk about at the start of the year. St Kilda haven't won enough of those so that when they come up against games against Richmond, Brisbane and Port Adelaide, they're just too far behind.
Yeah.
They're just not quite good enough.
And the Swannies continue on, even though there is... Who was saying before that there was some concern about their spot?
Whiting. I just think that Josh Kennedy he just can't quite get going this year. Callum Mills has gone through a bit of a flat spot. When they were really good at the start of the year, it was largely due to their young players playing extremely well. They're not quite going as well as they were. I think their future's absolutely bright, but just at the moment, they're just going.
So they go Hawthorn, which they should win, then a bye. Then their 3 after the bye will sort them out. They go Port Adelaide, West Coast, Western Bulldogs.
Where are they?
Port Adelaide is away. West Coast is at home. And then the Bulldogs is away.
Subject to change, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, probably don't get too deep into that just at the moment, because who knows? Who knows? Fair point.
Take away the finals the way we play. It's going to be more about how we train, how we prepare, and how we execute. And right now we're not executing in the manner that you need to be able to do to win AFL games of football. And the scoreboard's showing it. Like we're not good enough. We're not there, and we've got to get better.
4-8. That's the situation for the Blues as they face the bye this week after 12 rounds of 2021 AFL football. That's the voice, of course, of David Teague, the coach. He's just not good enough. Got to get better. Anthony in South Morang has been waiting for a little while. We appreciate that, Anthony. Good morning to you.
Morning, boys. Morning, boys. I think the club's known as weak now and really soft. I think the documentary last year showed it when Adam Simpson said, these guys aren't up for the fight, and I think other teams know that. David Teague, at some point in his career or coaching tenure, has to put a flag in the ground and change the culture. I mean, he had the chance after round 2. I think that debacle against Collingwood when you had guys like Plowman laughing, Murphy, and then to pick Levi Casbolt. He's been fantastic for the club, but you can't play a guy on one leg when you've got other younger kids to come in. And then, to have Mark Murphy during the week having a bit of a sook about being dropped and deserving to be a bit more loyal and a bit surprised that he's been dropped. I mean, his form's not up to it. I mean, he's had his chance to set a culture at this club, and for the 20 years that he's been there, or whatever he's been, and captain, he's set a losing culture, and it's time to change. I mean, we've got to move on from him. To have senior players, and I don't know what leadership he offers as a 33-year-old when you've got a Hodge and a Lewis have done it at other clubs, and then you've got Stockart languishing at full back, the poor kid, when you've got our co-captain just running around on a wing, turning the ball over when he should be, have a selfless role. I mean, David's got to set a culture and a standard, and it's got to start somewhere, because if it doesn't, we know what Carlton does. We get rid of coaches. And unfortunately, I don't think getting rid of David's the answer, because we're going to have to start again, but he needs more help. He needs more support. But he needs to start investing in this youth that we drafted highly in and putting him in the middle and not relying so much on Cripps. And then the other thing, sorry to ramble on, but to have Ed Curnow playing a halfback flank, tagging Cripps was disgraceful. I mean, you got Dom Sheed, and the only two on ballers they had were Sheed and Gaff. You'd think lock down one of them, and we'd easily go halfway to winning a game. But no, he doesn't do it. And then, Matt Kennedy is another one that had 30 touches 2 weeks in a row in the reserves and doesn't get picked, but Jack Newnes gets picked ahead of him as a sub, and so does Murphy. I mean, it's time to move on from these guys. Sorry.
Anthony, thank you for your call. That is expressing a fair few views there, and very consistent with a lot of Carlton people that have been talking on the socials, certainly in the last 15, 16 hours or so. Jim?
Yeah, I know we don't have a prize, but can you just give me his car or something for a week? That was a great...
That was a good call. That's a very impassioned Carlton supporter.
He was detailed, he was
clearly frustrated. The 8 losses this year for Carlton have been between 16 and 28 points.
I'm sick of hearing
that.
No,
I'm just giving you data.
I know.
You read into this what you like.
I'm taking it out on you because you're saying it, but I don't mean this personally.
Seven of them against top 8 teams.
7 of them against top 8 teams. I'm just giving you data.
I know. But I'm going to be the Carlton supporter when you read this.
What they have been found to be is wanting when the moments have mattered. Round 2 versus the Magpies, they were in the game at three-quarter time. They're down by 9 points.
So, lost.
Hang on.
I'm being a Carlton supporter.
I'm giving you some data.
Yeah, and I'm being a Carlton supporter.
Do you know how many goals they kicked in that last term?
I don't care. They lost.
They kicked 1. It's important you know this, Jim. Round 8 against the Dogs, they're up by 14 at three-quarter time. How many goals they kicked in the last quarter?
Don't care. We lost.
1. Round 11 against the Swans, games in the balance, down by 3 at three-quarter time. How many goals they kicked in the last quarter?
I'm assuming 1.
1. How many goals they kicked yesterday in the last quarter?
1.
We've got a problem.
Yeah.
That's just from a scoring perspective, Jim. That's getting it on the board as opposed to protecting it.
You raise a good point.
One thing that was really obvious last night was watching that last quarter was the lack of spirit, the lack of determination, the lack of intensity.
We said that last week against Sydney.
It was that, but I reckon it was worse against West Coast.
And we saw images against Sydney where David Teager's imploring his team to lift.
That was the thing that, like, it wasn't a particularly good game yesterday, but that was the thing. I thought, gee, you're fighting for your season. I'm not saying you're fighting for your coach, but you're fighting for your season, and the lack of desperation was quite evident. I just want to put one thing on the table, which I think was an interesting thing. Yes, in yesterday's game, they had 10 players from other clubs playing in that game for Carlton. That's half the team had played at another club. And this year, they've played 36 players, 15 have played at another club. So I reckon there's got to be a lot of attention on list management as much as anything, because I'm not sure how many of them have made them a better team.
What would be... I don't know if we've got any data on this at the moment, Rama. What would be the number of players average sort of at a club that would have played somewhere else? The sort of rotation rate.
Geelong would have a few.
Maybe 5 or 6, maybe. I would have thought.
That number's going up half.
Brisbane and Port would have a few. Brisbane and Port have a few.
Work out.
I don't know that many, but I know we can't all sit here and count them up because we've got a few minutes to go.
No, West Coast didn't have anywhere near that many.
No, West Coast have a lot of
homegrown.
West Coast had 3 playing yesterday.
When I watch Carlton, it looks like they're fighting against the game.
It's all
hard.
Go again.
It's all hard. It looks hard. It looks hard when they win the ball back. It looks hard when they kick a goal. It looks hard when they defend. The game looks hard to them.
They're what Melbourne were probably 18 months, 2 years ago, where they don't understand yet how each of them affect each other. And we keep singing Melbourne's praises, but I don't think Carlton have had that penny-dropping moment where they understand that if I defend and cut out the release mark, it allows my backs to set up. It allows my mids to have time. It allows my forwards to get up and actually put some forward pressure on. They don't understand that yet. And also, just on yesterday's game, Whitey, and our caller touched on it, West Coast made the adjustment after quarter time with their midfield. Now, if I'm Carlton and the game's in the balance, Nick Nananui's hitting it to Dom Sheed. So use Curnow, who we know has been a good stopper. Yep. Just take it away from him. Show us something else that can beat us. So there you go. You're trying to address where they're strong, which is Nanainui hitting it to Dom Sheed. I saw too much of Zach Williams and Saad when the game is on the line. They're almost on the goal line.
Yeah.
If you're trying to win the game and trying to win your season, you move Doherty back because of the injury to Newman.
Yep.
There you go. You've stabilised your back six. And Doherty can take the game on. He's played back six. Take a risk. Push Sard or Williams up to the wing. Or you put Murphy up to the wing and move Zach Williams to half forward. So at least then his kick is going inside forward 50.
Which is what they wanted him to be when they first got him anyway.
Yeah, so move him to half forward, not the wing. Yeah, come up, play high half forward, at least a bit of creativity, get Sard up into the ground, get some overlap, and they're actually getting the ball through the middle of the ground instead of them being 1-2 metres watching the ball go over their head. Look, like just some positional stuff they could have tried.
The scoring problem that you talk about. So Big Harry's kicked 38 for the year.
Yep.
Then you go to Eddie Betts at 17.
Yep.
Who's obviously in the twilight of his career.
But playing extremely well.
Yeah,
Yes,
awesome.
No doubt. I'm not denying
Owies, he'd be there.
Matt Owies is next at 10. Then you go down to
played a handful of
Gibbons. Then you
games
go down
too.
to Gibbons at 8.
He's actually been all right,
Cripps
Owies.
at 8.
Owies has been good.
Yeah.
They don't have a dangerous forward line at the minute. They don't have enough contributing in that forward line. Now, McGovern hasn't played a lot, obviously, this year. He was selected.
Curnow.
He was recruited. And then Charlie Curnow's the other one.
I want to talk more about this with you tomorrow, about this thing about players from other clubs. Yesterday, Fremantle had 4, Bulldogs had 5, West Coast had 3. I reckon there's a bit to it. About
How many Melbourne
having-
got?
No, I don't know.
got a few.
I'll find out. I'm going to do some research on it during the day because I just wonder about building a culture, building a team when you've got guys coming in from other clubs all the time, regardless of whether they're good or bad players. How much of that has an issue in building a culture? I don't know the answer to it, but I think it's worth investigating a bit more.
R&D said Melbourne have 4 on the weekend. R&D at the back telling us that's
There's one thing is about picking and choosing.
Who builds your culture, players or coaches?
Well, I just want to say this one point. You can pick and choose players from other clubs to make them better. You can't just bring players in because you've made list management mistakes, so you try and make up for the mistakes that have been made in the past.
Geelong has 11 on their list.
on their list.
On their list.
Okay.
Most of them are playing, like in the 22.
It's an interesting discussion. We'll talk about it with
But
Rockets
they're
tomorrow,
coming
I
into
reckon.
a successful culture, Jimmy.
Yeah, I was just.
Which has been-
I wasn't
yeah,
answering
it's already
question
been
1B.
created.
Oh, you're just giving data away, just like I was trying to do.
Data.
Yeah, just-
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well done to West Coast, by the way. That game, I think, saves them. Had they lost that, I reckon they were vulnerable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
In
Especially
the
with the injuries they've got.
Yep, but I think that might save them.
William Ryan.
Whitey thought Essendon were coming into the 8.
No,
Yeah,
see, this is
You antagonistic Essendon people.
He's my man, and he's staying in the
He's my man. We are all each other's men. On Twitter, we put out a poll. Who would you pay more for, Darcy Parish or Zach Merritt? Currently, Darcy Parish is winning at 69%,
Right.
according to the Twitter poll. So there you
Is
go.
that recency bias?
Possibly.
Absolutely.
Adrian Dodoro's voted twice,
One for each.
and he said option 3. He's gone for C, option 3. That was the best of the Breakfast Club. If you want to hear the full interviews again, go straight to the website, rsn.net.au.